CC by SA, or it's under the GPL, the GNU license, which I'll explain shortly. And this is completely incompatible because it doesn't allow commercial use. And when most people think about commercial use, they think like, I don't know, IBM or some big publishing firm taking your dictionary and publishing it. But it's actually much more likely to be some translator who wants to translate the software, or some guy who wants to make a machine translation system. But just as an example. Yeah, just as an example. So you still get access to source, you can still share it, you can still share your modified versions, and still copyleft, but no commercial use. So these are like content licenses. You find pictures for books, for documents, this kind of things. Other licenses. The big one. The GPL is the license used by over 70% of the software. That's a big amount of software. And if you want to be able to interchange your software with other software using your GPL, your license has to be GPL compatible, which means that it must allow hosting to use like the GPL. You must be able to have access to a source, you might share it. The GPL is copyleft, but to be compatible with the GPL, it doesn't have to be copyleft. So, for example, the BSD license or the MIT license is all of these things, but it's not copyleft. It's the license used by something that people know.
Some part of that Macintosh.
Yeah, the kernel for the base operating system for the Apple Macs is licensed under the BSD license. And this is but it's not copyleft. Which means, so the reason that Macs use BSD, this BSD operating system instead of Linux, is because then Mac can take it, they can add their fancy user interface and sell it. Whereas if it was Linux, they would have to share their fancy user interface with other people without selling, or with selling, but still share it. And they don't want to do that, which is why they choose the BSD license. Finally, any of the big licenses that I'm missing? No, the LGPL.
Apache?
Not so big. Pardon?
Apache?
Apache license is basically the BSD license. It's non-copyleft, I think. Yeah, same with the X11, same with the MIT.
The other issue, sorry if I can just...
Yeah, please.
Chime in, is attribution.
Yes.
Which is basically what the by is.
Okay, yeah. When we talk about the by here, it means attribution. It means, which is very important, it means if you're going to use this work, then you have to say who made it in the first place. So you have to have a list of all the authors and probably which parts they contributed to the code. It's like in science. I don't know if anyone here publishes scientific papers, but if you cite the results, you give the paper where it came from. And if you use some results from some other paper, you cite them. Because that's how people know where it comes from, and it's good for prestige of the authors.
What is Project Open under? It's not GPL.
Project Open?
I think it is GPL.
What's Project Open?
It uses two different licenses. It has a proprietary component, and then it has, I think, no, it cannot be GPL then, because...
You can have, that's another thing which is interesting, you can have dual licenses. So, for example, there's a machine translation system, or you can have triple licenses, that's called Open Logos, which is basically, the copyright holder has said, okay, if you're going to use it in GPL software, if you're going to use it in free software, then the terms are the GPL. But if you want to use it in commercial software, we will sell you a license to use it in commercial software. So the person who decides the license is the copyright holder, and they can put whatever license on, or they can put on whichever licenses they want. It's they who decide what you can do with it. And this is just putting on one of these licenses is one way to say, look, you can use this, you can play around with it, you can share it with your friends, just make make sure that people know that I wrote it, and if it's one of the copyleft ones, then your modifications must be sent back into the pool. Must be sent back so that everyone can benefit from it, not just you.
And can all of these can you sell?
Yes,
Can you
yes, yes,
take
yes.
them and sell them
Yes.
off? Is GNU, is that
The GPL is the GNU General Public License.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's from the Free Software Foundation, and as I said, it's the biggest free software license. So if you're making software and you want it to be free, then it's probably the easiest one to choose, and it's been tested, and there's an active. You can contact them for legal assistance and stuff like that. Any questions? I mean, I've not really said much, but I hope I've cleared up at least some questions.
Something that I'd like to add,
Yep.
just because it's my life's work.
Yeah.
Sharing modified versions includes, for example, distributing a translated version of a piece of software.
Yes.
And that is why in South Africa at my NGO we only translate free software that allows redistribution of modified copies, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to translate it into South African languages, because we are not the owners of the software. So that is why we are interested in something like Mozilla Firefox that allows that explicitly, which interestingly is published under 3 licenses,
Yeah.
just for kicks. That is what for us is really important, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do our work without the approval and blessing and go ahead and whatever of the owners.
Another thing to add, why these licenses are great and why other licenses suck, is that, for example, the Windows translation in Afrikaans is, from what I heard, quite appalling.
The one for Windows XP.
Yeah, the one for Windows XP is atrocious. And as a user, you can't go and say, here, I'm going to fix this. This is how you should say it. You can contact Microsoft, but they're just going to say, hey, we already laid out X amount of money to translate it. We're not going to do fixes as well.
Or they might fix it for the next version of Windows.
Yeah,
but
in X years.
yeah.
But with these licenses, you can fix it yourself. It's quite liberating. You can say, hey, this is a bad translation. I'm going to fix it and I'm going to send it back so that everyone can benefit.
Yeah, the licenses also cultivate an environment within which changes are more commonly accepted and shared and contributed.
Yeah.
Because you know it's worthwhile and allowed and encouraged.
Yeah, exactly. And you know that if you do something, it's going to be taken advantage of. They're not just going to say, not cost effective.
One thing I would like to underline is the fact that when you publish under one of these licenses and somebody else reuses your work, he has to mention or she has to mention the source.
Yeah, that's the attribution.
Yeah, the attribution needs to be. So in any case, people will know that whatever is there, material originates from you if you publish something under such a license.
This, by the way, poses a problem when you have a long history changes. And in my opinion, it's quite debatable that you can simply quote the author, because you didn't get the material directly from the author, you got it from a place. So there is a place in which the material is published, there is a number of authors that have taken part into the process, and if you really were to compel to attribution, all of them have the same dignity and should be quoted, which rarely happens, honestly.
Yeah.
Which rarely happens. So we consider this to be compliant just because somebody wrote the first author of the material on
But it
it.
really needs to have all the authors in order to be compliant.
No, but mostly what you should have is something like an history page on the place.
Well, like a
which,
change log or something. But
and that would be really be complaining. But it happens pretty rarely at the moment.
We actually typically we put on all of the authors and we put on a year for when their contribution started and up to when they
Well, one of the reasons is that it partly voids the advantage that you get in being nominated as